Alrighty, how is everybody today? As I think this is a little bit more of a serious one today. There may be a little bit of, just as you're continuing to watch it, just note that there may be a little bit of triggering. You may be triggered. There may be something that comes through that for you, that you may not want to watch this. And it's not that I'm going to be going very deep into it, but I will be sharing a little bit of some of my story, which can obviously trigger or bring up emotions. So I welcome you to, if there's anything that you're going through right now, or if this does trigger you, please message me. I'm absolutely here. I'm an open book. Mental health is a really big thing for me. It's really big. It's personal. It's very personal. I grew up with a mother who was a manic depressant, which not many people knew about. She lived a life of, very, very hard life. Like she's the strongest woman I've ever met in my life. She's freaking amazing. So right from when I was little, I mean, I have a memory that comes up as I'm speaking of me standing at the kitchen and holding my mum's hand, looking up at her, and she was just, it's like she wasn't even there. And I was only like, knee high to a grasshopper. So, I watched my mum hurt a lot. And then I'll talk about myself as well. So this is something that's very, very close to my heart. Like I was a little bit shaky, especially when I saw these statistics this morning, 3,345 people called Lifeline in Sydney alone on one freaking day. And then when I was just having a meeting with my team, one of them said 44% were under 18. That's 44% of kids. Now that really disheartened me. And there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I don't want to make this anything about what's happening at the moment. I want to make this about the issue. So please don't comment, or please don't bring anything about the actual issue that's happening. Is what I want to talk about is the mental health. We all know what's happening. We all know why. We all know all the other things. But what I want to talk to you about is we really need to bring back the human aspect of us. We really need to bring back being able to reach out and talk to somebody. And we've sort of lost that because we've been either put in these little cocoons, not through anything of our own, or, we're really being put into a place that's really out of our control. And it's an interesting world right now, and the real part that we can that we are being attacked is in our mind. It's the fear-based reality that we're living in right now. A lot of us are living, most 99% of the world are living on tenterhooks. We're not knowing what's going to happen. We're not knowing what's going to be created. We're not knowing, survival is our biggest thing. And when we're constantly being fed and with what's actually happening, with what we're seeing and what we're hearing and what's around us, it really is causing a lot of emotional distress. And our mind is the most powerful thing that we own within our body. And it's the most dangerous. I'm going to use the word dangerous. It's the most uncontrollable thing that we actually have. A mind can be a very beautiful place, and it can be it's very powerful, but it can also be a really, I'm going to use the word fucked up place for some of us. It really can. And it's the one thing that we have the hardest to control within ourselves, because it leads us in all these different places. And the mind, it's mental illness. It's an illness. It's an absolute illness. And it's a very serious one. And it's a very serious one that's attacking our children. It's attacking our younger generation as much as it's attacking our older. And it's, my biggest message that I want to come across right now is we need to communicate. We need to form back that aspect of, just being there for each other. And the thing is with mental health, and coming from somebody who is a mental health survivor, if you want to say, or I've actually, okay, so I'll share a bit of my story. This is where people might get a little bit triggered. So for me, I was, as I said, I watched my mother. She was a manic depressant. She had things like that woman had been through things that you can't even imagine. She was a very strong. It's where I got my strength. Like being around my mum, I know why I chose her to come onto this earth, because she is one of the strongest women I know, and I honor her every day for what she went through for herself and for us kids. I'm not going to get into that at this. And then for me to watch myself go on down that spiral, that real spiral of living in a lot of victimhood and struggle all my life, because that's all I knew. It was my comfy zone. Like living in, a lot of us don't even know why we are actually how we are, but it can be from right back from programming. It can be from us seeing and it's some of it's learned behavior, some of it's our nervous system, some of it's our actual, the way that we react, how we actually think that we not think, but how we actually are within our world, because it's all we know. It's all we know. And then we have, for me, I had coping mechanisms, and my coping mechanisms were really big ones, either drugs, alcohol, and I wouldn't allow anyone to see that I was weak, because when I grew up with what I perceived as being weak was when I started having my panic attacks and my anxiety, and I went down a real downward spiral, like really, really bad. And I thought, because I grew up and my mum always made everyone, no one knew. She was always strong. She was always, don't you be weak. We have to be strong, because she was a single parent. She had 3 jobs. She was bringing us up for the best she could. She did a phenomenal job with what she was given. Phenomenal. And, she had lots of heartache within her life, and I won't really get into it because that's not my story to tell. And, when I started going down a similar path to her, like it was a mirror image, as we do, we take on a lot of characteristics from our family, because it's a part of our programming. It's what we think we deserve. It's our level of worthiness. We just start attracting it because that's the vibrational energy that we're living in. It's the frequency, and that's all we think that, a lot of us, that life is, even though we want something bigger. And I went down this massive spiral. It was uncontrollable. It really was. And I ended up hitting rock bottom. I didn't leave my house for 3 months. 3 months. And when I did have to leave it, I had to have a Valium. I could not deal with the outside world. I just couldn't deal with it. It was my mind, the constant thoughts that I had in my mind. I would be driving my car and I'd just be thinking, I wonder if I just drove off that cliff. I wonder if anybody would notice. Or if I just went into that lake, into the water, I don't think anybody would care. Nobody would miss me. I was living so far in the mentality of a victim and the struggle that I didn't think that anyone cared. And I had people that loved me around me. I had family. But when you're in that zone and when you're going through different things, I'd be standing talking to somebody when I was repping, and I'd be like, in my mind, I'd be thinking, I wonder what they'd do if I punched them in the head. And I'd be like, where the hell did that come from? Or I would be in the kitchen with a knife, and I'd be like, I wonder if I just, wonder if anybody would care. And then it came to the stage where my mind was just taking on such a life of its own that I was scared to even open my eyes in the morning, and I couldn't get out of bed. I could not get out of bed. I realized that I was living my mother's life. I was absolutely living it. I got myself so embedded in that emotional state that's where I was. That's where I was living. And it was so easy. It just took on this whole life of its own. And I'm a strong woman. And it doesn't matter if you're strong or not strong. Your mind, it's powerful. And if you give it an inch, and if you feed it with any fear-based reality, or if you feed it with anything of a negative context, it takes a whole life of its own. And it can be small things that add up. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, fuck, where am I? What am I doing? I hate my life. I'm not worthy of anything. Nobody loves me. And it just starts taking the spiral. And then the day that I woke up and I had it, I crawled to my bathroom. I had an ensuite in my house. And I crawled and I reached up and I grabbed a pill box. And I was going to end it. I was done. Getting a bit emotional now. I was done. I was absolutely done. This was, I think, about 8-9 years ago now. I was done. I had it. Like, this was not a very nice place to be. It wasn't. It was a horrible place to be. And I sat there and I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought about it. I even looked at my razor and I thought about it and I thought about it. And that was the turning point for me. That's when I decided that I needed to understand how I got from where I was to where I am now. And I went down the biggest learning path of my life. But first of all, I got help. I asked for help. I got help. I reached out. I reached out. And that is the hardest thing for someone to do when they're going through mental health. It's the hardest thing. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I really want you to take stock of the people that you know. For 3,345 people in Sydney alone to ring Lifeline. That's one place. How many people do you think you know out there that are... Because when people would ask me, you know, you're right. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm great. Yeah, man. I was the life of the party. When I was working, I was always in my zone. I had my game face on. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. Apart from a couple of people that were really close to me. They knew. But even then, like, I hid it. They thought I went to work each day. I didn't leave the freaking house. I was an alcohol rep. Yep, really good, right? A druggo and an alcoholic with a great job. So, you know, a lot of people didn't know. I didn't tell anybody because to me it was weak. It was weak. Because everybody thought that I was so strong. And we think that they're like, if you know, because there's a real thing around people, oh, you're mental, you know. I mean, when you're kids, you go, you're mental, you know, when you were kids, you know, people would do that. They would go, oh, you're one of those mental ones. And that was actually quite a taboo thing. It was for me growing up. It was like, oh, people think I'm mental. That means they're all going to think I'm crazy. Oh my God, there's no way I could tell somebody that I'm weak. And when I watched my mum be so strong, there was no way I didn't want to be like her. She was my idol. She was my role model. What she went through and what she provided for me, I wanted to be strong because that was the program I had. I needed to be strong. You have to be strong. The best thing I could do was break down. The best thing I could do was just let it out. The most important thing I could do was reach out and say to someone, I need help. So what I want to say to you is there are people around you right now that need you. And when we're busy worrying about all this other bullshit that's going on in the world, we're missing the people that we love the most. You know, it really gets me this. We're missing the people that we love the most. Even ringing someone up and saying, hey, let them know that you love them. Let them know that you're there for them. And you don't need to say it, but you just need to connect. The world right now needs us to connect. It doesn't need us to be fighting each other. Excuse me. It doesn't need us to be fighting each other. It needs us to reach out to each other. Give each other as much love as we can, even if it's a hello. You know, we've even got these things on our face that we can't smile at people anymore. Smile with your eyes. And pick up the phone and talk to someone that you love. Or talk to someone, take a moment to sit and have a thought, think, who haven't you spoken to in a while? Send them a message and say, hey, been thinking about you, how you going? That would have meant the world to me, but people didn't know what was going on with me, so it's a little bit different. But I can imagine that those people and the other people that are going through what's, you know, mental illness at the moment, that would mean the world to them to know you're there. A lot of time we get so caught up in our own reality and our own story and our own life and our own, you know, chaos and creation that we forget the people that we love. We forget the people that, you know, we haven't spoken to in a while. And the thing I want to talk into is, it's what I talk a lot about, you know, like we're a physical body and this is our physical mind up here. We also have a soul body. We actually have two minds that we forget about. And our second mind is our heart. And this is the mind that we need to connect to at the moment, not this one. We need to be living in a place of compassion, in a place of love, in a place of connection, in a place of nurturing, in a place of just allowing ourselves just to even just smile at somebody or say hello. You know, you go out in the street, if you can, and people are just like, they're pissed off with the world, and rightly so. But the best thing that we can do for each other is we can really connect and build a community and tell someone you love them. The most precious gift you can give someone is your time, is your presence, is you. Don't need anything else. Right now we need each other. Go and ask your neighbour if they need something. It might just be a hug. Connect. We must reconnect as a community. We must bring back compassion and love, not judging and hatred and anger and frustration out on each other, because that's causing more of this. And you got to be careful what you're feeding your mind. You must be careful what you're feeding your mind right now. We're all a little bit fragile. You know, there's lots going on. We're very fragile, and it doesn't take much to tip somebody over, especially if they're sitting on that brink. And you don't know. And they might retaliate to you because they're sitting on that brink. Send them fucking love. You don't know what somebody else is going through. And I just want to say that if there's anyone that I know or anyone that's on here or listens to it that needs someone to talk to, I got a great ear. I really do. But I want you to make a conscious effort. Because remember, my live yesterday, everything's a choice. Everything's a choice. To reach out to somebody you love. Give them 5 minutes of your day. Do you know how many minutes you have in a day? I don't know the math, but it's a lot. So surely you can give somebody you love the connection, your time, your energy, your love. It's key. We've created a bit of a selfish world where we're actually quite full of narcissistical behaviour that we don't even know we're doing. I think that's all from me today. It's been a big day, a big emotional day. So I want to send you all love from this mind and this heart of mine. And just take some time just to do one little thing that will make somebody else smile. I love you all very much. And when I say that, I mean it. Like, I'm not, what you see is what you get with me. I'm an open book. And if you need me, I'm here. Sending you all so much love.